The colony ship drifted through the black emptiness of space like a wounded animal. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. Alarms screamed through the metal walls. And on the bridge, Captain Park stood perfectly still, watching the damage reports fill her screen with bad news. "Engine room is not responding," said from his communication station. His young face was pale under the red lights. "Main reactor is offline. We are running on backup power only." Did not blink. She had commanded ships for 20 years. She had survived pirates, solar storms, and equipment failures, but she had never seen anything like this. 3 hours ago, they had hit a field of debris that their sensors had not detected. The rocks had torn through their hull like knives through paper. Now her ship was dying, and 12,000 colonists were trapped inside. "Life support status," said. Her voice was calm. A captain must always be calm. Han, the chief medical officer, looked up from her station. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes that now held nothing but worry. 72 hours, she said quietly. "Maybe less. The oxygen recyclers took heavy damage. We are losing air." 72 hours. 3 days for 12,000 people, including 2,000 children who were sleeping in their quarters, not knowing that death was slowly creeping toward them. Turn 2. Send an SOS on all frequencies, every channel. Tell them we have civilians. Tell them we have children. Someone will hear us. Nodded and began typing. His fingers moved fast across the controls. The distress signal shot out into space, traveling at the speed of light, crying for help in every language humanity knew. But space is very big, and humanity was very far from home. The signal traveled for hours. It passed dead planets and empty moons. It flew through asteroid fields and gas clouds, and finally it reached the sensors of a patrol ship. Fleet Admiral was eating his evening meal when his communications officer interrupted him. Was tall for a, with smooth blue skin and 4 arms that ended in delicate fingers. His species had ruled this sector of space for 3,000 years. They had conquered 60 different alien races. They were the masters of the stars. "Admiral," the officer said, bowing low, "we have detected a distress signal. It appears to be human." Stopped eating. His large black eyes narrowed. "Human from the Death World." "Yes, Admiral, a colony ship. They say they have engine failure. They are requesting assistance." Made a sound that was like laughter, but he stood up from his meal and walked to the main bridge, where his crew watched the screens with confusion. The knew about humans. Every species in the collective knew about humans. They came from a planet called Earth, a world so dangerous that the collective had classified it as a Class 12 death world. The gravity there was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with poison. The water was corrosive, and the life forms that evolved there were monsters. The humans themselves were terrifying to look at. They had only 2 arms. They had no protective shells. Their skin was soft and exposed, but their bodies could survive temperatures that would freeze a solid or burn them to ash. They ate chemicals that would kill any civilized species. They could heal from wounds that should be fatal. They could run for hours without stopping. When the collective first discovered humans 60 years ago, many admirals wanted to destroy Earth immediately. But the humans seemed primitive. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were weak. They were no threat to anyone. So the collective had ignored them. Let the ground crawlers play with their little ships. The stars belonged to the evolved species. Now looked at the distress signal with disgust. They want our help, these animals. His subordinate, a commander named, shifted uncomfortably. There were a client species of the smaller and weaker, with scales covering their bodies. "Admiral, they say they have children aboard. Perhaps we should." "Should what?" interrupted. "Waste our resources on primitives. They chose to leave their poison world. Let them suffer the consequences." He walked to the communications panel and pressed the broadcast button. His voice went out across space, reaching the wounded and its desperate crew. Attention, human vessel. This is Fleet Admiral of the Collective. Your distress call has been received and rejected. Return to your poison world, ground crawlers. The stars belong to the evolved. Do not pollute our space with your presence again. He ended the transmission with a wave of his hand. Then he looked at his crew and smiled. Record their final hours. Broadcast it across the collective networks. Let everyone see what happens to primitives who think they belong among us. The crew obeyed. Drones were launched. Cameras began recording. Across the collective, millions of aliens settled in to watch 12,000 humans die. On the captain listened to his message. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. Some were crying quietly. Others were shaking with anger, but did not cry, and she did not shake. She felt something cold growing in her chest. It was not fear. It was not sadness. It was something older, something that every human carried in their blood, passed down from ancestors who had survived ice ages and plagues and predators and wars. It was the quiet anger of a species that had never learned to give up. Captain said, his voice breaking, "What do we do? No one is coming. We are going to die here." Turned to face him, her eyes were hard as stone. "No," she said simply, "we are not." She walked to the communications panel and entered a code that only captains knew. A code that had been given to every human ship before it left Earth. A code that was only for emergencies so terrible that nothing else would work. She said, "Switch to frequency 7790, the encrypted channel." He looked at her with confusion. "Captain, that frequency is not in our standard systems. It will take all our remaining power to boost a signal that far." "I know, do it anyway." Obeyed, he rerouted every bit of power they could spare. The lights dimmed. The heating systems went cold, but the signal went out, strong and clear, shooting across space toward a small blue planet that the galaxy had forgotten. The message was simple. "This is the colony ship. We have 12,000 souls aboard, including 2,000 children. We have 72 hours of life support. We have been assistants by the collective. They are watching us die for entertainment. If anyone can hear this, please help us." Then sat down in her captain's chair and waited. She did not know if help would come. She did not know if anyone was listening. But she knew one thing that they did not. Earth never abandoned its children. 3 months away at standard speeds, deep beneath a mountain in a city called Seoul, a red light began to flash. A young officer looked at his screen, then went pale. He stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Sir," he shouted, "Sir, you need to see this. Someone triggered the protocol." Admiral Lee looked up from his desk. He was an older man with gray hair and scars on his face that told stories of battles no alien had ever witnessed. He read the message once, then twice. Then he reached for his communicator. "Wake up the fleet," he said quietly, "all of it." The galaxy had made a mistake, and humanity was about to teach them why should never be mocked. Deep beneath mountain in Seoul, the United Terran Defense Command never slept. Hundreds of officers worked in the underground facility, watching screens that showed every human ship in the galaxy. They tracked trade vessels and science stations. They monitored colonies and mining operations, and they waited for a signal that they hoped would never come. Tonight, that signal had come. Admiral Lee stood in the war room, surrounded by his most trusted officers. The message from the played on the main screen. When it finished, the room was silent. 12,000 civilians, said slowly. 2,000 children. 72 hours of air. He looked at his officers. And they are broadcasting their deaths across the galaxy for entertainment. Commander Bay stepped forward. She was young for her rank, only 35 years old, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her black hair was cut short, and her eyes burned with cold fire. "Admiral, thee is 3 months away at standard speed. We cannot reach them in time using normal travel." "I did not ask about normal travel, Commander," pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing a fleet of ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were black as void, their designs sharp and deadly. "I am asking about the real fleet." Nodded slowly. "The Shadow Fleet, the ships we have been hiding." "For 60 years, said. For 60 years we have let the galaxy think we are primitives. We let them laugh at our slow ships and weak weapons. We let them call us ground crawlers and poison breathers." He walked around the table, looking at each officer in turn. "Do any of you know why?" A young lieutenant named raised his hand nervously. "Because we wanted to avoid conflict, sir. We did not want to start a war." Shook his head. "No, we hid because we knew what we are." He pointed at the hologram. "Look at those ships. Each one carries weapons that could crack a planet in half. Each one moves faster than anything the collective has ever built. We created these machines in 60 years. That took 3,000 years to build their empire." He paused. "We hid because we are dangerous, Lieutenant. We hid because we remembered what our ancestors did to each other before we learned to be better. We hid because we hoped that if we seemed weak, no one would give us a reason to show our true strength." He pressed another button. The hologram changed to show the fleet surrounding the dozens of alien warships, cameras recording, aliens laughing at dying children. "They gave us a reason," said. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of mountains. "Commander Bay, you will take the carrier, the Great, and 46 escort vessels. You will use the jump drives. You will reach thee in 6 hours, and you will bring our people home." Stood straight. "And the fleet, sir?" "Give them one chance to withdraw, one chance to remember that even animals have teeth." Eyes were hard. "If they refuse, remind them why our planet is called a death world." Saluted and turned to leave, but called out one more time. "Commander, the colonists come first. The children come first. But when they are safe," he paused, "make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you mock humanity's children." "Understood, sir." 1 hour later stood on the bridge of the Great. The carrier was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long, carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Around it, 46 destroyers and cruisers waited in formation, their crews ready for battle. Looked at her bridge crew. Navigation officer was calculating jump coordinates. Weapons officer was running final checks on the missile systems. Communications officer O was preparing the broadcast equipment. Crew of the said over the ship-wide channel, "You have all volunteered for this mission. You know what we are about to do. For 60 years we have hidden, we have pretended. We have smiled while aliens called us primitives and laughed at our children." She paused. "Today, we stop pretending." She nodded to navigation. "Engage jump drives." The ship hummed. Energy built in the engines, energy that came from principles the collective did not understand. Humanity had discovered things in their short time among the stars. They had found ways to fold space, to move faster than light should allow. They had kept these discoveries secret. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality twisted. The stars blurred, and 47 human warships vanished from Earth space, leaving nothing behind but empty darkness. Across the galaxy, they had no idea what was coming. On the 50 hours remained. The colonists had been moved to the central sections of the ship, where the air was still breathable. Families huddled together under emergency blankets. Children asked questions that their parents could not answer. Captain walked through the corridors, checking on her people. She stopped by a small girl named Shin Ara, who was sitting alone in a corner, holding a stuffed rabbit. "Are you okay?" asked, kneeling down. Ara looked up with big eyes. "My father says we might die. Is that true?" Felt her heart break, but she kept her face calm. "We are waiting for help," she said. "Sometimes help takes time, but it always comes." The blue aliens said no one would help us. They said we are animals. Touched the girl's cheek gently. "The blue aliens do not know us very well. They do not know what humans can do," she smiled. "Do you know the story of our planet, Earth?" Ara shook her head. Earth is a very difficult place, said. The sun burns us, the cold freezes us, diseases try to kill us. Animals with teeth and claws hunted our ancestors, but we survived. We survived everything our planet threw at us and we became strong. Not because we had shells or claws or poison, but because we never ever give up. She pointed at the girl's heart. That strength is inside you too, inside all of us. Ara clutched her rabbit. So help will come. Nodded, help will come, I promise. She stood up and continued her walk, but inside she was not as certain as she sounded. The signal had gone out hours ago. Earth was so far away, maybe too far. In the medical bay, Han was treating patients who had been injured in the collision. She worked with steady hands, stitching wounds and setting bones. A young man named Minyu lay on one of the beds, his arm wrapped in bandages. The exterior hull needs repairs, he said. Someone has to go outside and fix the oxygen recyclers. I can do it. I am a pilot. I know how to work in a suit. Shook her head. The radiation outside is too strong. You would get a lethal dose in minutes. I would have hours before the symptoms started. Enough time to fix the recyclers. Enough time to give everyone else more air. And then you would die. Minyu looked at her with calm eyes. There are 2,000 children on this ship. If I can give them a chance to live, my life is a small price. Felt tears forming in her eyes. This was what humans were. This was what they did not understand. They thought humans were weak because their bodies were soft. They did not know that human strength came from something deeper, from the willingness to sacrifice everything for the people they loved. Wait, she said quietly. Just a little longer, help might still come. Minyu nodded slowly. I will wait, but not forever. Outside the fleet continued to watch. Admiral sat in his command chair, enjoying the show. His subordinates brought him reports every hour. The humans were running out of air. The humans were crying. The humans were praying to gods that would not answer. Primitive creatures, said to Commander, look at them. They cannot even save themselves, and they thought they could live among the stars. Shifted uncomfortably. Admiral, some of the crew have expressed concerns. The children aboard that vessel are animals, interrupted, born from animals. Would you feel sympathy for dying bacteria, for a virus that was being destroyed? He waved his 4 arms dismissively. These humans come from a world that should not exist. They are accidents of nature. Watching them die is simply watching the universe correct a mistake. Said nothing more, but he looked at the screen showing the human ship and he wondered if his admiral was right. The humans did not act like animals. They comforted each other. They shared their food. They sang songs to their frightened children. Maybe thought they had made a terrible mistake. But before he could think more about this, every alarm on the ship began to scream. Admiral, a sensor officer shouted, we are detecting massive energy signatures, multiple jump points opening. Stood up, his blue face showing confusion. Jump points? That is impossible. No species in this sector has jump technology except. Space tore open. It was not like travel, which was smooth and controlled. This was violent. Reality itself screamed as 47 black shapes ripped through the fabric of space and emerged into normal reality. The human fleet had arrived. And at the head of the formation, Commander Bay's voice echoed across all frequencies, cold and clear and absolutely terrifying. This is the United Terran Navy. You are in proximity to Terran civilians. You have 30 seconds to withdraw to a distance of 10,000 kilometers. This is not a request. Stared at the screen, his 4 hands trembled. The ground crawlers had come, and they had brought the fury of a death world with them. The bridge crew stared at their screens in frozen silence. The human ships hung in space like dark ghosts, their hulls absorbing light, their weapons glowing with barely contained power. They had appeared from nowhere. They had crossed a distance that should have taken months in mere hours. Admiral's mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. The humans were primitives. Everyone knew this. Their ships were slow. Their technology was weak. They were ground crawlers, poison breathers, accidents of evolution. But these ships were not primitive. These ships were nightmares given form. "Admiral," the sensor officer whispered, "I am reading their energy signatures. Each of those vessels is outputting more power than our entire fleet combined." Shook his head. "That is impossible. Run the scans again." "I have run them 3 times, Admiral. The readings are correct." Commander stepped forward, his scaled face pale with fear. "Admiral, perhaps we should withdraw. The human commander gave us 30 seconds. We still have time to—" "Withdraw?" His voice was sharp. "We are the collective. We have conquered 60 species. We do not run from ground crawlers." He stood tall, wrapping his 4 arms around himself in a gesture of authority. "They are bluffing. They must be. No primitive species could build ships like that." "But Admiral—" "Enough. Walk to the communications panel. Open a channel to the human vessel." The screen flickered, and then a human face appeared. Commander Bay sat in her captain's chair, her expression calm and controlled. She looked young, impossibly young by standards, but her eyes held something ancient, something dangerous. "Admiral," she said, her voice was polite, almost friendly. "Your 30 seconds are almost up. I suggest you make a decision." Forced himself to stand straight. "Human, you come into space with your little fleet and think you can threaten us. We outnumber you 3 to 1. Our weapons have destroyed 100 armies. Your ships may be impressive, but you are still just primitives playing at war." Tilted her head slightly. "Is that your answer?" "My answer is this," smiled, showing rows of small blue teeth. "Surrender now, and we might let your colony ship live. We will take your warships as trophies. We will study your technology, and we will broadcast your defeat across the galaxy so that every species knows the price of challenging the collective." The human commander did not respond immediately. She simply looked at, the way a predator might look at prey that did not know it was already dead. Then she spoke, not to, but to someone off-screen. "Did you record that?" A voice answered, "Yes, Commander, broadcasting to all collective networks now." Turn back to, "I wanted the galaxy to see that we gave you a chance. I wanted them to know that what happens next is your choice, not ours." She leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why humans evolved on a death world, Admiral? Because our planet kills everything that is weak. Only the strong survive. Only the clever survive. Only those who refuse to give up survive." She paused. "For 60 years we have pretended to be weak. We have let you laugh at us. We have let you call us primitives and animals and ground crawlers. Do you want to know why?" Said nothing. His 4 hands were trembling. "Because we remembered what we are. We remembered the wars we fought against each other. We remembered the weapons we created to destroy ourselves. We remembered the darkness in our own hearts." His voice grew quieter, but somehow more terrifying. "We hid our strength because we were afraid of ourselves, afraid of what we might become if we had enemies to fight." She stood up from her chair and walked closer to the screen. "You gave us enemies, Admiral. You pointed cameras at our children and watched them suffocate for entertainment. You broadcast their tears across the galaxy." Her eyes were ice. "Now you will see what happens when stop hiding." The transmission ended. On the captain and her crew watched the exchange on their emergency screens. The bridge was silent, had tears running down his face. Han was holding her hands over her mouth. Even the injured colonists in the medical bay had stopped to watch. "They came," whispered. "They actually came." The human warships began to move. They did not move like ships, which were slow and careful. They moved like predators, fast and precise, taking positions around the wounded colony ship like wolves protecting their pack. Through the hull cameras could see the fleet hesitating, was barking orders at his crew. His ships were trying to form a defensive line, but they were too slow. The humans had already surrounded them. In the central hold of the young Shin Ara tugged on her father's sleeve. "Father, look, those ships have the same flag as us." Her father, a farmer named Shin, looked at the screen showing the human fleet. Each black ship carried a small emblem, a blue circle with green and white inside, the flag of Earth. "Yes," he said, his voice breaking. "Those are our ships, those are our people. They came to save us. They came to save us." Ara clutched her stuffed rabbit and smiled for the first time in days. "I told you," she said quietly. "I told you someone would come." Onda the Great returned to her command chair and nodded to her weapons officer. Major was a tall woman with broad shoulders and hands that had killed in 3 different wars. She had been a Marine before taking a bridge position, and her body still moved with the economy of a trained fighter. "Status of the Marine boarding teams?" asked. "Ready, Commander. 200 soldiers in powered armor standing by in the launch bays." "And the medical ships?" "Following behind the main fleet. They will reach thee in 20 minutes. Nodded. "Good. Navigation, move us to intercept position Alpha. Communications, broadcast on all frequencies. I want everyone in the galaxy to hear this." The Great surged forward, its massive engines pushing it toward the flagship. The other human ships followed, a wall of black metal and deadly purpose. "Attention, fleet's voice echoed across space. You have ignored our warning. You have chosen to threaten our civilians. In accordance with United Terran military doctrine, you are now classified as hostile combatants. You have one final chance to surrender. Drop your shields, power down your weapons, and prepare to be boarded. If you comply, you will be treated as prisoners according to our laws. If you resist—" She paused. The silence stretched for seconds that felt like hours. "If you resist, we will show you why our planet is called a death world." Admiral stared at the screen. His fleet outnumbered the humans. His ships were bigger. His crews were trained. Every logical part of his mind said that he should win this battle. But something else was screaming in his thoughts. Something old and primitive. Something that his species had forgotten long ago because they had been masters for so long. It was fear. He opened a channel to his fleet. "All ships, attack formation. Target the human carrier first. Destroy it and the others will scatter." 140 warships turned their weapons toward the Great, energy built in their cannons, missiles locked onto their target. "Fire," commanded. The fleet erupted in light. Thousands of energy beams and hundreds of missiles streaked toward the human carrier. They watched the incoming fire with calm eyes. Countermeasures. The human ship's defensive systems activated. Point defense guns shot down missiles by the dozen. Energy shields absorbed beam weapons that should have burned through any hull. The attacks that did hit the ship sparked harmlessly against armor that was harder than anything they had ever encountered. When the barrage ended, the Great was completely undamaged. Smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Our turn." She pressed a button on her chair. "All ships, weapons free." Across the human fleet, weapons that had been hidden for 60 years finally revealed themselves. Rail guns that accelerated metal slugs to nearly the speed of light. Plasma launchers that burned hotter than the surface of a star. Missiles carrying warheads that could crack continents. The darkness of space lit up with fire. And the fleet began to die. A rail gun slug from the Great punched through its shields like they were not there. The metal rod, moving at a quarter of light speed, tore through the ship from bow to stern. The cruiser split in half, its 2 pieces spinning away into the darkness, leaking atmosphere and bodies. The second ship lasted 4 seconds. The third lasted 2. On the flagship, Admiral watched his fleet die. His screens showed ship after ship vanishing from his formation. Yellow lights turned red. Red lights turned black. 30 years of service, and he had never lost a single battle. Now he was losing everything. "Admiral, we cannot penetrate their shields," his weapons officer screamed. "Our beams are not doing anything." "Then fire more," shouted back. All ships concentrate fire on the carrier. But the human ships were not staying still. They moved with impossible speed, dancing between formations, striking from angles that should have been impossible. Their crews were enduring G-forces that would kill any instantly. The humans were pulling maneuvers that the collective's computers said were physically impossible for organic beings. Commander grabs arm. "Admiral, we must retreat. We have lost 40 ships already." Shook him off. "We have 100 left, we can still win." "Look at them," pointed at the screen. A human destroyer had just destroyed 3 cruisers in a single pass, spinning between their fire like a dancer avoiding raindrops. "We cannot fight this. They are not primitives, Admiral. They never were." Opened his mouth to respond, but another explosion cut him off. A battleship, one of the biggest in the fleet, had just been hit by something. Its shields collapsed, its hull cracked, and then it simply exploded, turning into a cloud of debris and fire. 8 minutes. The battle had been going for 8 minutes, and the had already lost 60 ships. On the Great, Commander Bay coordinated the battle with cold precision. She did not feel joy at the destruction. She did not feel satisfaction at the dying. She felt only the grim necessity of a job that had to be done. "Medical ships begin approach to the," she ordered. "Destroyer Wing 3, clear a path. I want our doctors on that colony ship in 5 minutes." Major looked up from her weapons console. "Commander, the flagship is still active. They are trying to retreat." "Let them go." "No, Commander. They are trying to retreat toward the colony ship. I think they want to use the civilians as hostages." His expression did not change, but her eyes grew harder. "Navigation, intercept course. Weapons, disable their engines. I want that ship dead in space." The Great surged forward. Its main guns tracked the flagship, calculating firing solutions in milliseconds. 2 shots. That was all it took. 2 railgun slugs hit the flagship's engines, turning them into twisted metal and fire. Admiral's ship went dark. "Marine teams, launch," commanded. "Secure the enemy vessel, find their commander and take him alive." In the launch bays of the 200 human Marines climbed into their boarding shuttles. They wore powered armor, black and gold, that made them look like metal giants. Each suit could stop plasma fire. Each suit could punch through walls. Each suit turned a single human into something from a nightmare. Major had transferred command to Lieutenant O and was leading the boarding team personally. She checked her rifle one last time, then looked at her soldiers. "Listen up. The enemy is scared and desperate. They will fight hard because they have no choice. But remember why we are here. Remember the children remember the families who waited for help while these aliens watched and laughed." She slammed her fist against her armored chest. "We are not here for revenge. We are here to protect. We are here to save. And we are here to make sure no one ever thinks about hurting our people again. Move out." The shuttles launched. They crossed the space between the ships in seconds, their pilots weaving through debris and weapons fire. They hit the flagship's hull and burned through with cutting lasers. Then the Marines were inside. They tried to fight back. Their security teams set up defensive positions in the corridors. Their weapons fired at the invading humans, but they were not prepared for what they faced. Human Marines shrugged off plasma bolts that should have killed them. Their armor absorbed the energy, dispersed the heat. They moved through the ship like ghosts, their rifles silent and deadly. Led the assault on the bridge. She kicked down the door with one armored boot, sending it flying across the room. Officers screamed and ran. Some tried to surrender, some tried to fight. It made no difference. In less than 2 minutes, the bridge was secured. Found Admiral hiding behind his command throne, his 4 arms wrapped around himself, his large black eyes wide with terror. She removed her helmet. They had never seen a human face this close. To them, humans were ugly, frightening with their small eyes and their strange flat features, but did not look ugly too. She looked like death itself. "Admiral," she said, Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You are under arrest for crimes against Terran civilians. You will be taken to Earth. You will stand trial, and you will answer for what you have done." "You cannot do this," whispered. "We are the collective. We rule this sector. You are just animals, ground crawlers. You cannot." "We just destroyed 130 of your ships in 11 minutes, interrupted. "We have captured your flagship. Your fleet is gone. Your power is gone." She leaned closer. "And I want you to remember something, Admiral. Remember it for the rest of your life." She pointed at the viewport where the crippled was visible, surrounded by human medical ships. "You watched our children suffer. You broadcast their tears for entertainment. You called them animals." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We could have killed you, every single one of you. We could have turned your fleet into dust and left nothing behind. But we did not." She stepped back. "Because we are not like you. We do not kill for sport. We do not watch children die for entertainment. We are, Admiral. We were forged in fire and blood and suffering. But we chose to be better. We chose to be human." She nodded to her Marines. "Take him to the shuttle and treat him well. He has a trial to attend." On the first human doctors were arriving. They came with oxygen tanks and medical supplies. They came with food and water. They came with warm blankets and kind words. Captain met them at the airlock. She was exhausted, her face pale, her uniform stained with sweat. But when she saw the Earth flag on their shoulders, she felt tears running down her cheeks. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for coming." The lead doctor, a young man named Park, smiled gently. "We always come, no matter how far, no matter how long." He looked at the colonists gathered behind, the families holding each other, the children staring with wide eyes. "Let us get to work. We have a lot of people to help." In the medical bay, Han helped the new doctors treat the injured. Minyu, the young pilot who had volunteered to sacrifice himself, sat on a bed with tears in his eyes. "I was ready to die," he said quietly. "I was ready to go outside and fix the recyclers, even though I knew the radiation would kill me." Took his hand. "I know you were, and that is why you are a hero, not because you died but because you were willing to." "But I did not have to. They came. They actually came." Nodded. "They always do. That is what it means to be human. We never leave our people behind." Outside the last ships were surrendering. Their commanders had seen what happened to those who resisted. They dropped their shields. They powered down their weapons. They waited for the humans to come and take them. Commander was among the survivors. His ship had been disabled early in the battle. As human Marines secured his bridge, he looked at them with something that was not quite fear. "Why did you not kill us all?" he asked. "You could have, easily." The Marine sergeant, a woman named Iam, paused. "Because that is not who we are." "But we mocked you. We watched your children dying. We laughed." "I know." His voice was hard but not cruel. "And maybe some of us wanted revenge. Maybe some of us wanted to kill every single we could find." She shook her head. "But that would make us into the thing we hate. That would make us into you." Looked down. "What will happen to us now?" "You will be taken as prisoners. You will be treated fairly. And when this is over, you will tell your people what happened here. You will tell them that humanity is not weak, that we are not primitives, and that we do not want war. But if we attack you again—" Smiled. It was a cold smile, but there was something else in it, something that might have been mercy. "Then we will defend ourselves, and we will win, every single time." She paused. "But we would rather be friends. We would rather build things together than destroy each other. That is the choice we are giving you, peace or war. It is up to you." Watched as the human secured his ship with efficiency and professionalism. They did not torture the prisoners. They did not humiliate them. They simply did their job. Maybe, he thought, the collective had made a terrible mistake. Maybe these were not monsters at all. Maybe they were something far more dangerous. They were humans, and humans had learned to be merciful. Which meant that when they stopped being merciful, The galaxy would burn. 3 days after the battle, there was flying again. Engineer had led the repair teams from the Great, working alongside the colonists day and night. They had fixed the oxygen recyclers first, then the main engines, then the hull breaches. Now the colony ship was whole again, ready to continue its journey to the new world that waited for it. Captain Park stood on her bridge, watching the stars through the viewport. The emergency lights were gone. The alarms were silent. Her crew was rested and fed, and her colonists were safe. Commander Bay stood beside her. The two women had barely spoken during the rescue operation, both too busy with their duties. But now, in the quiet of the bridge, they had time. "Thank you," said softly, "for everything." Shook her head. "You do not need to thank me. This is what we do. This is what we have always done." They did not think anyone would come. They thought we were alone. They were wrong. Looked out at the stars. Humanity is many things, Captain. We are flawed. We are dangerous. We have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. But there is one thing we have always been good at. "What is that?" "Taking care of our own," smiled slightly. "No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, when one of us calls for help, others answer. That is the gift our death world gave us. We learned that survival means standing together. We learned that the only way to face a hostile universe is to never leave anyone behind." Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been bothering her since the fleet arrived. "Why did you hide for so long? You could have shown the galaxy your true strength 60 years ago. Why did you pretend to be weak?" Smile faded. "Because we were afraid." "Afraid of the—" "No, afraid of ourselves." Turned to face directly. "Do you know what happened on Earth before we reached the stars? We fought wars that killed billions. We created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We came so close to extinction that some people thought humanity would never survive." She paused. "And then we did survive. We rebuilt. We learned. We grew. But we never forgot what we were capable of. We never forgot the darkness inside us." Looked at her hands, strong hands, hands that had commanded weapons capable of destroying fleets. "When we first met we saw a choice. We could show them our strength and conquer the galaxy. We had the power. We had the technology. We could have become the masters of everything. But you did not." "No, because that is not who we wanted to be. We wanted to be better. We wanted to prove that humans could grow beyond their violent past." She shook her head. "So we hid. We pretended to be weak. We hoped that if we seemed harmless, no one would give us a reason to fight." "And now?" Was silent for a long moment. "Now the secret is out. The galaxy knows what we are. They know what we can do." She met eyes. "We cannot hide anymore. So we have to decide what kind of power we will be. Will we be conquerors? Will we be protectors? Will we be monsters or guardians?" Thought about the colonists in her ship, the farmers and teachers and engineers, the children like Shin Ara who had trusted that help would come, the families who had held each other in the darkness, waiting for rescue. "I think I know what you will choose," she said quietly. Nodded. "So do I." On Earth, Admiral Lee addressed the United Terran Council. The chamber was full of representatives from every nation, every colony, every human settlement in the galaxy. They had gathered to discuss what came next. "The Battle of the is over," said. 138 ships were destroyed or captured. We suffered 0 casualties. The colonists have been rescued. Admiral is in custody, awaiting trial." He paused. "But this is not the end. It is the beginning. The collective now knows what humanity truly is. They know that we are not primitives. They know that our ships are faster than theirs. They know that our weapons are stronger. They know that when we fight, we win." The chamber was silent. "They are afraid of us now, and fear can lead to 2 things. It can lead to peace if they choose to respect us, or it can lead to war if they choose to fight before we grow even stronger." His voice was steady. We must be prepared for both possibilities. A representative from the Asian Federation stood up. Admiral, some of us believe that we should use this opportunity to attack. They are weakened. We could crush their empire and take control of this sector of space. Shook his head. We could, we have the power, but we will not. Why not? They watched our children die. They laughed at our suffering. Why should we show them mercy? Because mercy is what makes us human. Looked around the chamber. For thousands of years we hurt each other. We conquered and killed and destroyed. We almost wiped ourselves out, but we survived because we learned something. We learned that the greatest strength is not the power to destroy. It is the power to choose not to destroy. He stepped forward. We will not we will not rule through fear. We will not watch other species suffer for our entertainment. We will defend our people. We will protect our children, but we will not become monsters. He raised his voice. Let the galaxy know this. Humanity does not want war. We do not want conquest. We want to explore the stars. We want to build new worlds. We want to learn and grow and become something better than we were. His eyes hardened. But if anyone threatens our people again, if anyone watches our children cry and does nothing, if anyone points cameras at our suffering and broadcasts it for entertainment, he paused. Then they will see what happens when fight for their family. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the representatives began to applaud. The sound grew until it filled the room, echoing off the walls, rising like a wave. Humanity had made its choice. They would be guardians, not conquerors, protectors, not monsters. But heaven help anyone who threatened their children. Across the galaxy, the recording of the battle spread like fire. Species who had never heard of humanity watched in shock as the mighty fleet was destroyed in minutes. They saw the black human ships dancing through space. They saw the powered armor cutting through soldiers. They saw the mercy shown to prisoners and the care given to survivors. And they wondered, what kind of species was this? What kind of creatures came from a world so deadly that it was classified as a death world, yet chose not to destroy their enemies? What kind of people could fight with such terrible power, yet still hold out hands of peace? The elder races of the collective, the ones who had survived the longest, recognized what they were seeing. They had seen species like this before. Predators who learned to be farmers, warriors who learned to be builders, monsters who learned to be gods. Such species were rare, and they were dangerous beyond measure, not because they conquered, but because they inspired, not because they destroyed, but because they offered something better. They had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened a sleeping giant and filled it with a terrible resolve. On the young Shin Ara found Captain standing alone at a viewport. The little girl walked up and tugged on the captain's sleeve. Captain looked down and smiled. Yes, Ara. Why were the aliens so mean to us? Knelt down so she could look at the girl directly. Sometimes, when people are afraid of something they do not understand, they become cruel. They think that if they can make the thing they fear seem small and weak, they will not have to be afraid anymore. Were they afraid of us? I think so. Humans are very different from them. Our bodies are strong in ways theirs are not. Our minds work in ways they do not understand, and they have been the strongest for so long that they forgot what it was like to be afraid. Ara thought about this. Are they still afraid now? Probably more than before. Will they be mean again? Considered her answer carefully. Some of them might try, but now they know something important. They know that when they hurt our people, we come for them, not to be cruel, not to take revenge, but to protect our family. She touched Ara's cheek gently. And that is what you are, Ara. You are family. You are part of humanity. And no matter where you go in the universe, no matter how far you travel from Earth, you are never alone. Ara smiled. It was a bright smile full of hope and trust. I like being human. So do I, said softly. So do I. Far away, on a remote observation post at the edge of space, a probe drifted through the darkness. It was old, launched decades ago to monitor the strange world called Earth. Its cameras had been recording for years, sending back data that the collective had largely ignored. But now someone was paying attention. The probe's cameras showed a human colony on a harsh, rocky world. Children were playing outside in the thin atmosphere, wearing only light suits. They were running and laughing, their bodies enduring conditions that would kill in seconds. Their parents watched with gentle smiles, unafraid of the hostile environment. Because to humans this was not a hostile environment. This was just another world, another challenge, another place to build a home. The probe sent its final transmission before human security forces destroyed it. The message was simple, but it would be repeated in council chambers and military headquarters across the collective for years to come. They are not primitives, they are survivors of hell, and they are everywhere. The stars had new masters now, not because humanity had conquered them, but because humanity had shown that true strength was not about destruction. It was about protection, about sacrifice, about never leaving your people behind. The ground crawlers had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the darkness of space, the began its engines and resumed its journey toward the new world. Behind it, the wreckage of the fleet drifted silently, a monument to arrogance. And ahead, among the stars, 12,000 colonists looked toward their future with hope in their hearts and steel in their spirits. They were human, they were home no matter where they went. Because home was not a place, home was family. And humanity's family stretched across the stars.